So this guy in his petrochemical jacket there, he has decided that the federal government is not going to invest in road infrastructure. You know, like we're what I think the world's second largest country by land mass. We are very sparsely populated, as Tucker Carlson puts out, the world's second largest country with just a little under 40 million people. Sounds like heaven. Except the Liberals want to fill it up with people for some reason. But anyway, he says we're not getting any roads. So I guess you're not getting any food as a farmer. I would say to you, if I don't have roads, you don't get food, city people. Like the food doesn't grow at the grocery store. But anyways, he says we're not getting any roads. And the Liberals are making excuses for this blackmail from the federal government. Let's hear what Justin Trudeau has to say when he tried to clean up this mess somebody else made.
The
no drink box, water bottle sort of thing.
Has commented that this government will no longer invest in roads. We have Northern First Nations that came out last week asking the province and the federal government to invest in an all-weather road system. It's the middle of February. Those roads have just opened. Climate change is a problem there. Invest in that?
The minister clarified his comments, that he was speaking about a very specific project in Quebec City. The reality is, since 2008, this federal government has stepped up massively on investing in infrastructure right across the country. And it's a contrast, not just with the Conservative government that preceded us, but the Conservative Party in Ottawa right now that continues to stand against investments in infrastructure, against the kinds of investments that help communities, because all they're proposing is cutting the investments, including in infrastructure, that Canadians are relying on. We will continue to be there.
Do you know how long he's been in power? He said his government has made infrastructure investments. It's not investments. You don't invest taxpayer money. Spending is what he's talking about. But he was elected in 2015, late 2015. So he's taking credit for infrastructure investments, spending, that the prior government made. Like, he's been in power so long that he doesn't know when his government came into power. And I think that goes to his sense of entitlement, right? That that he thinks the Liberals are the natural governing party of this country, and so they should just be able to take credit for the things that other people did. And yeah, sorry, as a small C Conservative, not a partisan Conservative, I am skeptical of infrastructure investments. You want to know why? Because they can't keep track of infrastructure spending. Didn't Catherine McKenna lose track of billions and billions of dollars when she was infrastructure minister? I think it led to her not wanting to run again because they just lost track of like multiple billions of dollars in infrastructure spending. So yeah, forgive me if I'm skeptical of throwing money at infrastructure projects under the Liberals. But this idea that Canada's, as the world's second largest country, we shouldn't have roads. Like, we all don't live in like the Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa corridor. We all don't live like 5 minutes from the American border. We live in other places. And in fact, the people who live in other places, not in that little corridor and far away from the border, guess what we do? We keep you alive. We are the ones that make the energy and grow the food. So we need the roads to keep you people alive, if you wouldn't mind. Thanks, Justin Trudeau. Now, naturally, when Steven Guilbeault does something stupid, there's one person who loves to weigh in, and I cannot wait to hear what she has to say every time that Steven Guilbeault does something stupid. And that is Premier Danielle Smith, who I think Steven Guilbeault is a bit of her muse. She does her best work when she's fighting with him and owning him and telling him that she's going to own him and telling him, that she's going to fight him. Like, she likes to put him on notice, but I think for the psychological terror, and then she does it. And so naturally, she had a lot to say. Let's hear from my Premier, Danielle Smith.
Well, Premier, yesterday the Federal Minister of Environment and Climate Change, Steven Guilbeault, made quite an announcement. He announced that the feds won't be building any more roads in Canada. Now, he has since walked those comments back, saying that he was misinterpreted. In any event, it was pretty clear what he said, and to not build any more roads in a country like Canada where we're growing, I think of Alberta, is just plain bizarre. Your reaction to what he said?
Well, it's like he's never stepped foot outside of Montreal. I mean, I can understand if all you have ever done in your life is lived in an urban environment where you can take the bus. I can understand that you might not know how big this country is. You might not know where resources get developed. You might not know that when you have a country as vast as Canada, not only east to west, but north to south, you need roads to drive on. So the problem with Guilbeault is that he's getting increasingly erratic and bizarre. The more every time he opens his mouth is to come up with some new unattainable policy pronouncement. And the only thing that I scratch my head over is why his caucus and why his cabinet have not done something about him. He's destroying the credibility of the Liberals. He's destroying national unity. He's acting in a lawless way because it's not abiding by the Constitution or by the decisions of the courts. It's just mystifying that he continues to be out there making these ridiculous pronouncements. I suppose the good news this time is it wasn't just me who had to say what lunacy this was. You had Doug Ford, who also weighed in, as well as David Eby in British Columbia weighing in. So if you've got premiers from all across the country with different political stripes all saying the same thing, you know, there's one person who's wrong, and it's the Environment Minister.
Yeah. Well, in this case, even the media, some of his closest allies in the media were turning on him on this one. So I take your point entirely. Listen, one more and I'll let you go. I know
there's a couple things in there. Like, she doesn't spare any words. She called it lunacy. She pointed out that, you know, that there is a whole other Canada outside of that Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto corridor. And, you know, she pointed out that we are the people who grow the food and make the energy. And, but it is true that it was so stupid that it drew ire from across the political spectrum. David Eby is no conservative, that's for sure. I think he would be to the left of a socialist in BC. Doug Ford, God only knows where he's at today. I think he would be closer to a liberal than a conservative, like a federal liberal. I think he would align himself probably more closely with them than he would with Poilievre. And yet he was outraged at just how stupid this is. The only point that I would take umbrage with my premier there is that she said this, she wonders why caucus hasn't done anything and that Guilbeault is destroying the credibility of the Liberals. Madam Premier, I believe that ship has sailed a long time ago. Look, I know why caucus isn't doing it. They're all just as radical as he is. He's just saying out loud what they believe.